Welcome to the MBL Rookie Draft. Today we'll see teams select franchise players who will forever change the culture of the team while having immediate success. While some teams will weigh risk versus reward, banking on a player's potential to develop. Some players will go on to be champions, Hall of Famers. Even though they were drafted in later rounds, their success won't be denied. You are witnessing the leader in full immersion gaming, the Madden Bomber League. So join our journey today. Go to 365.maddenbomberleague.com and take your chance to become a legend and forever be remembered like Lucky Jordan, Asa Sharar, because legends never die. And you're watching the MBL Network.
Welcome everybody to this MBL Live event for this MBL Draft. I'm Sonny Weaver alongside Bomber, Lip, Tom, and Project Fat. Season 18 was a great one, and this appears to be a great draft in itself. Up first on the clock is the Miami Dolphins, and so for some help for the Miami Dolphins, we're going to turn to Lip Ripper. Aaron Rodgers was a pickup last year. That ended up being a bust. Where do you think the Dolphins are going this time around, Lip?
Well, after Ben Roethlisberger comes down to Miami and is just already checked out, I mean, he is just done. His time in Pittsburgh's over. The Miami Dolphins are left with nothing. They frantically looked for somebody who could come in and play quarterback for them, and then they got super lucky because Aaron Rodgers was in free agency. So they are able to sign Aaron Rodgers, and that fills the biggest need on their team, which was quarterback. They really wanted to move this pick. They didn't get it in before the deadline. They couldn't find somebody who could buy the number one pick in the MBL draft. So right now they're just looking for supporting players for Aaron Rodgers. Some wide receivers, maybe some linemen. If they have to, they'll go defensive side of the ball, but they really want to get Rodgers some good talent to start out his Dolphins career.
Yes, my apologies there. Aaron Rodgers is picked up in free agency. Ben Roethlisberger retires. Miami's going with the replacement quarterback system there, with Roethlisberger not panning out in the last year, and we'll see if Rodgers can do something differently here. As you mentioned, Rodgers was trying to move it, so let's see if they go for some help or protection. And it does appear they go with the right tackle, Culliver. Now, interesting pick there is a right tackle is normally not the number one pick, the less athletic of the two tackles by trade. So we'll have to see how that works out, but seems like a risky pick for the number one overall pick. So New Orleans Saints, number 2 on the clock here. So we're going to head down to the NFC South, and that's where Tom's going to tell us about these Saints and what they're trying to do.
Well, the Saints is kind of a funny situation, honestly. You've seen them have so many picks early in the draft. They went, linebacker, they went quarterback, they went wide receiver. So they're like knocking off all the main spots, and no matter what they do, they're still having some trouble competing in the division. So where I think they're going to go here is I think they're looking for a cornerback, honestly. The offense hasn't been terrible lately, but the defense, it's just never clicking with how it needs to click. So I think that this pick is definitely going to go with a cornerback for the New Orleans Saints.
The Saints are in a good position here. Cornerbacks have a history of running early. I believe last year in that draft, we had a bunch of those go in the top 10 picks. So if you're looking for a cornerback in this draft, you're best off getting that early. If the Saints are looking there, there's some good ones on the board here that can help out that Saints defense. Obviously, they picked up Captain Munnerlyn in free agency last year after retiring. He performed admirably, but definitely with the number 2 overall pick, there's a lot to be improved there. Offense out in New Orleans definitely improving each season as the once young rookie wide receiver quarterback tandem is now matured. That defense is still giving up far too many points. So let's see where they go here. With short time left on the clock, we're wondering if they're going to get this pick in before the clock expires. The commissioner's got to have it in hand here. And it does look like they're going to get in right before the pick. So the pick is in. We're going to wait for that to get read by the commissioner. And they do go with the cornerback Austin. So New Orleans looking to try to revamp that defense. A good start there, as we say. Cornerbacks are key here in NBL, so good pick there. Pick number 3, we're going to head out west, the NFC West. Bomber, San Francisco 49ers still looking to gain some traction here in NBL. What are we thinking here?
Yeah, the Niners really struggled last year. They went 3-13. Their offense
I think we may have some technical difficulties out there with Bomber, so we're going to go ahead and take this one over. The 49ers struggling out there with the reemergence of Draco and that defense in St. Louis. They're going to have to find a way to score some points. Seattle's always stingy with that defense, even though that defense tends to start aging a little bit here. So any sort of offensive help would be big. 49ers not big players in free agency this year. Not really any discernible big pickups to say. But you got to think they need some offensive weapons out there. An offense that ranks last or towards the bottom of most major offensive categories. A lot of work left to be done in San Francisco right now.
Yeah, I think that they could definitely use an offensive weapon. They have their quarterback. They picked up a nice wide receiver a couple drafts ago. I think that they could go tight end or wide receiver here and fill a very needed hole for the San Francisco 49ers. Get their quarterback somebody to throw the ball to. It's a little late right now to get them learning a system, but just let them come in as a rookie and use their athleticism and then develop them. And that'll be a good offense once they get a couple more playmakers over there.
So it looks as the time's going to expire. They are going to go ahead and get their pick up to the commissioner, and we're going to wait around here for this pick as it waits to get called. That offensive side of the ball, a lot of work to be done in San Francisco. So as the pick heads up to the commissioner, it looks like it's going to be the left tackle, Griffin. So rather than going for the weapon, they're going to try to protect the quarterback. It's not a bad idea, but as we've seen so far, right tackle going first. It's going to be interesting line classes. You've seen a right tackle go before a left tackle, so I'm not sure if that's telling for the left tackle, Griffin. The pick number 4, we're in the AFC North, and that's where Project Fat's going to tell us about the new ownership in Cleveland.
Needed hole.
Yeah, and one thing about this, like you said, new ownership. So they're kind of maybe not looking to obviously make a splash this year. They're just looking to slightly improve this team. They have a pretty tough division there with you and your Cincinnati Bengals as well as Lippin' his Steelers. So, and then Pricey's been playing a lot better lately as well. So right now these guys are really looking to boost that offensive line. There's quite a few guys in this draft. One of them just went, Angel Griffin, that they could really look at to help them in that spot. But that's really where they talked about going. Either one of the tackles is what they're most interested in and what they feel like their biggest need is right now. So with Angel Griffin being off the board, I think Brendan Clay or BJ Marsh are the guys to kind of look at here with this pick.
So maybe an indicator of a weak cornerback class, maybe weak wide receiver class. Normally we don't see a run on tackles this early. It's counterintuitive to most people, but that's not something we normally see. So the fact that we're seeing this run on tackles possibly early should be a good sign that maybe, contrary to the last pick, maybe this class is a little deeper than we originally thought, or it's indicative of a cornerback class that just may not be up to par. So with short time here left on the clock for Cleveland, we've got Fat calling one of the tackles left or right. So we're going to wait for that to come in here. And it looks like the pick is up to the commissioner. So we're going to wait for him to go ahead and announce that pick. And so Fat's sources are right as they do take the left tackle Marsh. So they're going to be looking to protect the blind side. They drafted 2 quarterbacks last year. Remember, that was an interesting first round as they do take 2 quarterbacks last season, both of them suspended for some off-field issues. We get Marsh this year to protect the blind side. We'll have to see if this helps them down the road. Pick number 5, we're in the NFC South once again for the second time in the top 5, and that's going to take us down to Tom as he gives us an insight here on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
You know, this is actually another funny pick. Through talking with the Bucs, they were really set on getting an offensive line. And for all of you guys that have followed the MBL drafts recently, you've seen a run on cornerbacks and wide receivers early. So if you're talking with the Bucs, they felt that they were set. They were going to get the best, if not the second best, offensive lineman in the draft. Having that 5th spot, they figured a couple cornerbacks, a couple wide receivers would go. But actually what's happened is 3 offensive linemen have been taken so far. So that's going to put the Bucs in a peculiar spot here because they want the offensive linemen, but I don't think at the 5th spot that they see someone that's worth that pick. So I could see them going to a wide receiver at this spot. But ideally what they do want to take is an offensive line. So if they see someone there other than the top 3 that's already been taken that they feel is really worthy of a 5th spot, that's what they'll be going here.
So Tampa Bay's covered the front 7 on defense the last couple years early in the draft. I believe all of their top 2 picks the last few seasons have been front 7 players. So this is a defense that's been built from the front back Like you said, they're probably needing to look on that offensive side of the ball. The offense had historically been a good offense, taking a little bit of a step back. It'll be interesting to see as the season going forward what we can expect. And it does look like that pick's going to be in. So we're going to go ahead and wait for the pick to come in. And wow, now this one could be a little bit of a shocker here, folks. The Bucks go with the quarterback Harrison with the 5th overall pick, and I'm guessing there's going to be a little bit of controversy down in Tampa Bay over that pick, and that's something we're going to have to watch closely as that young quarterback is already in a hot position. So pick number 6, you thought you were getting Jacksonville Jaguars, but I'm getting news that this pick is actually going to be traded. So it looks like the 6th pick is going to be traded to the Denver Broncos. They're going to trade picks 28, 29, and 61. A relatively steep price to pay to come up, but they're going to get the 6th overall pick. So that means Denver Broncos in the AFC West. So we're going to go to Lip to get some insight on this move.
Well, the Broncos have lost Chris Harris. He just could not athletically do it anymore. He did it for so long and so well out there in Denver. We all know about the great defense that they had through the first 8 or 10 weeks throughout this season. They kind of fell off, but not too much. They were definitely still a top 10 defense. They had a great playoff run, a run that they didn't think would happen considering the circumstances, a lot of other things. They couldn't get Harris to come back. So they are making this move to jump up and grab a cornerback. If they did not select a cornerback with this pick, that would mean that Bradley Roby would be their number 2 cornerback. And that's okay. You can get through with that, but he's not the guy that's going to shut down a number 2 or even a number 1 wide receiver if that matchup comes up. So they really felt strongly that they had to come up and grab a cornerback. They did this a couple seasons ago, and it worked out very well. The guy they have playing number 1 right now is an absolute stud. He played with Chris Harris, as we talked about. And they were very good for that whole run, but as I said, Chris Harris just couldn't do it anymore. The Broncos really feel like they needed a cornerback, and that's why they moved up to this pick.
So just get it done. That's an interesting observation. Chris Harris, while Denver thinks he is past his prime, the New York Jets surprisingly give him a 2-year deal worth about $44 million. So somebody still thinks he's got something left in the tank, but it's not going to be the Denver Broncos who do move up here. And the pick has been handed to the commissioner, and we got Lip saying cornerback, and that'd be an obvious pick here for a team that just jumped from the end of the draft up to the top 10. So picks in, and we're going to get it from the commissioner right here. And it does appear to be the cornerback herd, so Lip's right on that. Denver mortgages most of their draft here to come up and get the cornerback, and we'll see how that works out for them down the road. Pick number 7, we got the Arizona Cardinals on the clock, which means play a partner, and you never know what player's going to do. Always interesting drafts out in Arizona, but he has built a team that could rival any team from a talent standpoint in MBL. So we're going to head out to our NFC West correspondent, Bomber, tell us a little bit about the Arizona Cardinals.
Yeah, I spoke with Player earlier today, and his biggest concern was stopping the rush. They finished dead last season when they were 5-11 against the rushing attack, and they said no more. They love the middle linebacker Manny Taylor, 6'2", 232 pounds, one of the best tacklers in college football this season, and he's going to really help solidify this defense, and I believe that's where they're going to go. They're looking for a staple on their defense that they can rely on to go ahead and stop the run and help their defense play against the passing attack, which they're more comfortable stopping.
So it's interesting you mentioned that. Arizona players in free agency, big players at some points were dropping some money left and right, and they were investing a lot on that front line. A lot of older guys, so I think right now you may be seeing them look to a younger, more athletic group to maybe learn behind the older guys, maybe eventually this year work their way into it. But you've got Arizona who has definitely realized that issue, and they are investing the type of money you'd expect of somebody who sees a problem and tries to correct a problem. Now, if they add a draft pick here to back that up, you can really see that commitment. So somebody in the front 7, whether that's defensive line or that linebacking core, would be a great pick here for the Arizona Cardinals as they do get the pick up to the commissioner. So we're going to about to get that pick here in a second. And it is the middle linebacker Taylor. So good pick there by the by the Arizona Cardinals, who are committing to stopping that run. Pick number 8, Green Bay Packers. Unisolated is here to make the pick at number 8, and that means we're going to go to the NFC North correspondent, Tom.
So I know that the Packers right now are pretty upset. They really wanted Trey Hurd at cornerback. That was what they mainly needed, was cornerback. Fortunately, the Broncos went ahead, moved in front of them. They knew the Packers wanted a cornerback. They took him. So Packers are a little upset right now, but it's not too much to worry about. They definitely said no matter what, they want to look at the defensive side of the ball. Primarily they wanted that secondary coverage, but they don't feel anyone's there. So I think with this pick, they're actually going to go with the defensive tackle. And I know one tackle they had really high on the board was the defensive tackle Farmer out of Tennessee. They really like the guy. He's a beast off the line. He stops the run, and he's got some sneaky good pass rushing skills too. So I think that he's going to be the guy that they go ahead and take here at number 8.
So this has been a defensive-minded draft so far. We've seen one offensive player so far in this entire draft, and that's the quarterback, Harrison. Besides the lineman. But we're not seeing the offensive skill players we're used to seeing, which could be indicative once again of the depth of quality of the offensive skill positions in this draft. So pick is in, it's going to be the defensive tackle Farmer. So Green Bay, like the Cardinals, invest in stopping the run. So Farmer should help solidify that defensive line. We're going to stay in the NFC as we head to the Dallas Cowboys in the NFC East. Dallas Cowboys have had a rocky season last year. They look to be turning the corner 2 seasons ago, kind of took a step back. Julius Burton, the running back, just not as productive as we'd seen him 2 years ago. Looking for a bounce-back year, maybe some weapons to help him out. Bomber, tell us about the Dallas Cowboys.
Well, the Dallas Cowboys had a disappointing season last year. They finished 6-10. McGibblis wasn't too happy with the offensive production, especially in the passing attack. Des Bryant and Otha Roseman played phenomenal, and they feel if we can just get one more piece out there in the passing attack, we're going to be have a great balance and go ahead and open up our run game even more, which finished 5th in the league. So I'm going to say they go with Key and Peele's favorite name, Tavahuzi Peppers. He's from Ohio State. This guy's got burners. He will look great in the slot with Des Bryant and Otha Roseman playing wide out, and that will help replace Terrence Williams in the slot position. Tavahuzi Peppers.
We're getting some hot peppers down in Dallas. Interesting here, 9th pick is going to be possibly, if Bomber sources hold true, the first offensive skill position taken. So a little later than we're probably normally used to seeing. The pick comes in to the commissioner, so we're going to wait for that. But Dallas looking to help maybe free up that running game of Julius Burton a little bit with offensive help.
The Titans are now on the clock.
And the pick comes in. It is Pepper, so Roseman and Bryan going to get a running mate down there in Dallas. Burton's got to be happy, hopefully, to get people out of the box, get off keying on him, and hopefully have another possibly top rushing year. Pick number 10, Tennessee Titans. We're in the AFC South, AFC South. So Tennessee Titans, Project Fat. Tell me about the Tennessee Titans and the money they spent this year in the free agency was pretty impressive for them. But what are they keying here at pick number 10?
Well, the thing for them is, I know you've already touched on it a few times, but they weren't too sure exactly what they wanted to do right off the bat here in the draft because, like you said before, cornerback has always been a position that's gone quick and gone early. Usually by pick 10, you're lucky if there's one still available. So they were definitely looking on the defensive side of the ball, defensive tackle possibly, but it seems like their cornerback that they were looking for is available for them. And it's going to be Casey Middlebrooks, 6 foot tall, 187 pounds. They really like what they see from this kid, and they think that he can make a huge difference for them on that defensive side of the ball.
So the Titans were in play for some free agent cornerbacks. They didn't come up with them. I know they were looking at Chris Culver, didn't quite get him. So some help on the defensive side of the ball in the back secondary. The pick comes in, and it is Middlebrooks, so they get a young cornerback to go on that defense. Pick number 11, we're going to go out to New England. Now, New England, if anybody remembers from free agency, made a big splash, possibly the splash of free agency, as Harrison Smith was let go by the Minnesota Vikings. New England stepped up in a bidding war that was somewhat epic and ended up paying Harrison Smith 3 years, $72 million. That's a lot of money for a safety. So, Lip, is it going to pay off here for the New England Patriots?
I definitely think that it has the potential to pay off for the New England Patriots. Going into free agency, they had lost McCourty at that safety position, so they really felt like they needed to fill that hole. There wasn't really anything out there in free agency other than Harrison Smith, so they knew they had to go all in. Why I think this is going to work out is it's going to give them a defensive stud back there. It's going to fill that hole that they needed, that they might have spent this pick on to fill had they not got someone else in free agency. So they fill that hole, and that allows them to patch up this offensive line. Right now, they do not have a left tackle on the roster. They have a right tackle that might be able to kick out over there, but that would leave them with another big hole at left guard. So I think this is a very good opportunity for them to take an offensive lineman, either a left tackle, a left guard, maybe even a center, depending on how Justin James has been developing. This will allow them to get protection for Shepard so that the offense can get rolling and so that it can take some pressure off of that defense that they didn't have as much of last season, resulting in a record that was not very pleasing to New England Patriots ownership.
While Lip was giving us the complete breakdown of the New England Patriots, the Patriots go with the strong safety Rice. So that's going to give Harrison Smith a running mate and hopefully somebody to learn or to teach. Also, during that pick, the Kansas City Chiefs went ahead and went with the cornerback from a defense that really took a step back last year as they dropped all the way to third in that division. So they're going to be looking for a rebound year this year, and hopefully the cornerback Scott can help rebuild that offense that was pretty much decimated last year. So now to pick number 13, it's the Chicago Bears in the NFC North. So we're going to go to Tom to tell us about the Chicago Bears, who are actually picking relatively low for the Bears.
Yeah, so the Bears definitely had a little bit of an improvement. They have a lot of – they need a lot of help is what they need. And most importantly, I think what they need is to protect their quarterback here. There's a couple holes on offense. They need a tight end. They need a wide receiver. But more importantly than anything, you need to be able to keep your quarterback upright. And I think that's what they're going to go address with the 13th pick here. We've seen some offensive linemen go, so this is really the point where you want to take those like last top end guys. So I think they're going to go here with the left guard, Rommel Hansen here.
Hansen it is, as he gets it out right before the commissioner drops it too. So good building there. It seems like the Bears have been building that offensive line for the last couple drafts. I hope that's the last piece, as there's still a lot of other things they need to build there. Alshon Jeffrey's not getting any younger, and they probably could use a few more weapons out there. But it's never too bad to build from the trenches, and that's what the Bears decide to do. Pick number 14, we got the we got the Washington Redskins, and so we're going to head back out to the NFC East to bomber in these Redskins.
All right, the Redskins had a pretty abysmal year for them. They were 7-9, coming off a playoff appearance, a wild card playoff appearance the year before. So a big letdown for them. They finished really poorly against the rush. They were 31st, second to last. They were giving up 84.9 yards a game, and they also finished 31st in passing yards, giving up 253. So I think they're going to go with the defensive tackle out of Nebraska, Jelani McKnight. He's going to help solidify their defensive line, and they'll pair him next to Timmy Jernigan, who had a really phenomenal season last year. Their D-line is a little suspect right now, but the D-tackle, if they can shore up that position, it could really help plug up the middle and stop some of that the run game that they've had trouble against last season.
So, another run defender here, possibly. So far, defensive tackle, middle linebacker. Could we be getting another defensive tackle here? We'll find out here in just a short amount of time. Washington's got a lot to prove here as they're in a division with the reigning Super Bowl champion New York Giants. So they're going to have to do something here to try to play catch-up in this division. A historically good division, had a couple down years outside of the Giants, but looking to bounce back. We've seen most of this division so far here in the draft. We're going to get to see the Eagles here in a few more picks. It looks like the Redskins pick is in, so we're going to wait for the commissioner to go ahead and read that off. And they're going to go ahead and jump to the other side of the ball, not defensive tackle, but left tackle Boswell. So they see the run on offensive linemen and think they probably are going to have to get one here before they come back around in the second round. So always good pickup to build from that interior line, that line. And so good pick there by Washington as we move to pick number 15 here in the New York Jets. So for the New York Jets in the AFC East, we're going to head out to our friend Lip Ripper to tell us about the Jets.
I won't go on another John Madden 4-minute talk there. So the Jets lost Revis to retirement. He played there for a very long time. He had a great career for the Jets. They want to fill that need, but they also have talked about some wide receivers, cornerbacks, and linemen that would fit what they need at this point.
So the Jets, remember we mentioned it earlier in the broadcast, Jets dropped big money on Chris Harris for 2 years, $44 million. So they expect something to be had there from Harris, looking for a replacement to Revis. Now remember the Jets last year with the top pick ended up taking a center, which was a little bit surprising. And they took another quarterback as well in the previous draft to that. So they've done some things that are a little bit out of the ordinary in context to the Jets. Jets are always an interesting drafting team. And so here was short time. We think we may know what the Jets are doing, but it's going to be tough to tell. So it's a very winnable division. The Patriots had a down year last year. The Bills were very up and down on a hot streak at the end of the year, trying to get back into the race. So Jets are right there with the chance to make the playoffs, as you've got basically the whole division in the bottom half of the league. Jets picks look to be in here, and the commissioner's going to go up and read this here with short time left on the clock. And it's going to be the wide receiver farmer, so we get another skilled offensive player here. Looking for a little more offense out of that offense, and you can never be upset when you're trying to put points on the board. Pick number 16, it's the Philadelphia Eagles, October. We're going to go out to Bomber for the NFC East. Seen a lot of NFC East here.
Yeah, I think we might have a little run on wide receivers right now. I've heard that the Eagles are looking at middle linebacker, wide receiver, or cornerback right now. They finished 7-9 last year. They actually played pretty well down the stretch, and you saw a little change in the offense, a little turn. And I think to keep that momentum going, they got to go with Marco Travis out of Texas A&M. He's 5'9", 194 pounds. He's a little small, but I think paired next to Nelson Aguilar and Jordan Matthews, he will be a nice combination a route guy, a guy that can get intermediate and short and take something deep. Definitely someone that can get you some yak, and I think it'll really help open up their offense and allow for Aguilar and Matthews to get over top of those safeties. So I would say the pick's going to be Marco Travis from Texas A&M for the Philadelphia Eagles.
So another wide receiver possibly here. Nelson Aguilar. Talk of trade talks for the last couple seasons. Philadelphia never really willing to part with him. Didn't want to give up on the young, talented wide receiver, but offense has been an issue in Philly for the last couple seasons. We saw a pretty good offensive burst out of these Eagles in the first early years, but since this ownership's been there, the offense has kind of deteriorated a little bit. So to get back to that, some more help on the offensive side of the ball is always going to be welcome. As Bomber mentioned, possibly looking at a little run here. But that's to be expected as you get to these middle rounds. You're probably looking more projecting out to what they can do to you this year at this point, and that's what we're looking at. So as the pick comes in, instead of being a wide receiver, they do go middle linebacker Lucas. So they go to the defensive side of the ball instead, trying to maybe shore up that front seven. Pick number 17 is the Indianapolis Colts. Now the Indianapolis Colts, many people believe to be the big winners of free agency.
Huge
They give
winners.
a big contract to Alden Smith, 4 years, $74 million, along with Josh Norman getting a 1 year, $18 million contract. Now, remember, they did let Vontae Davis leave in free agency, though. So, what are we looking at here, Fat, for the Indianapolis Colts?
Well, coming into the draft, they were really looking for offensive line, and as we've already seen, there's been a lot of offensive linemen that have already gone. So right now, they're not too sure where they want to go. They still want to go on the offensive side of the ball, but the offensive line was what they really wanted to focus on. But right here at this pick, they don't see anything that's really worth the value right now. So you could possibly see the first tight end come off the board here. They talked about really being in love with DeAndre Odom. Big tight end. They feel like that he has great hands, and he can definitely be an impact day one for this offense.
So tight ends, they say, are the quarterback's best friend. Andrew Luck could use a best friend over there, as he's been quite reliant on his wide receiving core, but those smaller wide receivers have gotten banged around the last couple seasons. A lot of injuries on the offensive side of that ball. So wouldn't be surprised if they do something crazy. You remember a couple years ago they did go with the double running back setup, but it appears as that pick comes in, that may not be the case. They go with the tight end Odom, so they're going to try to get Luck. Reliable safety blanket there. Not far out from winning that division. Hopefully Odom can help push them over that edge. Pick number 18, we are back to the New York Jets, and that means if we're going to be talking Jets football, we got to talk to Lip about these Jets.
Yeah, so I just recently got off the phone talking with the Jets general manager, the ownership there. They have taken a pretty nice strategy to drafting over the past couple years. They went out and they got an offensive line mostly all through the draft. They've developed them really well, got some stars on the outside, and they draft a nice running back and a quarterback to go along with this offense. And now they believe they're just one piece away from being really into the playoffs. I believe that they were just one game short, maybe 2 games shy of their first playoff berth this past season. So they feel like a left tackle could really put the offense together. You know, they just signed Chris Harris, so they think that the defense might have some guys that can make the defense solid. So locking up the offensive line is where they want to go right now.
So offensive line, we're going to see a lot of offensive line here as we get through this first round. Another one here would be a bit surprising, but anytime you can try to build that, like we talked about, build from the trenches, it's a good day. The pick's going to come into the commissioner as we wait for him to call that off. And it is the left tackle, which means the Jets are committed to that game, that passing game that really, it's had its ups and downs. They get the wide receiver farmer, so they're investing on the offensive side of the ball. We'll see if that's going to go ahead and work out for them. Pick number 19, the Minnesota Vikings. Vikings kind of put up a fight there down the stretch, just missed out with a late loss there to the Detroit Lions. But Vikings kind of showed some life there that made you think maybe they're not far off, maybe just a player or two. So to talk about those Vikings, we're going to go to Tom.
So we obviously talked about the loss of the free safety Harrison Smith. So primarily where I think the Vikings are going to go is to be for a safety position. They definitely want to improve that secondary, and we've seen a strong safety go. I don't believe we've seen a free safety go yet. So they could have their pick of whoever's available. They need a cornerback. They need some offensive line, but most importantly, I think they got to replace that safety position. If they don't feel anyone's worth this 19th spot, then I would definitely see them going cornerback. But they have to go secondary. They need to be able to compete with the wide receivers of the Detroit Lions in that NFC North there.
You know, I'm not really sure you compete those wide receivers. I think you just try to maybe maintain those wide receivers. So what we're seeing here, obviously Calvin Johnson's gone off to greener pastures. You've got still some good threats there in Benson. Hopkins, obviously the league leader in receiving last year. Matthew Stafford can still air it out. So something on that defensive side of the ball to contain is a good idea. Maybe something in the pass rushing realm wouldn't be a bad idea as well. To get to the quarterback is a good way to stop a really good passing attack. So the pick's going to come into the commissioner as we wait for him to call that out here. Short time. We're expecting something maybe on the defensive side of the ball here for the Vikings.
The Ravens are now.
But that's going to be why you don't bet on the draft. Instead of going to the defensive side of the ball, they're going to try to go with an arms race and keep up with the pace of the Detroit Lions. And that's going to be hard to do, but they go with the wide receiver Griffin. We'll see if they can put up the scoreboard numbers like the Lions can. That's probably doubtful. Pick number 20, that's going to be pricey, in the Baltimore Ravens, who had a resurgence this year. These Ravens came on late in the year, and they were right there in the playoff hunt, just missing out. But a lot of upside there to the Baltimore Ravens, right, Fat?
Most definitely. Like you said, really came on strong, finished 9-6-1. They did have a tie earlier on in the year. But this team is playing really, really well. And when I spoke to them about what they were looking to do to improve this team even more than they already have, they made it simple. They said cornerback, they're going first round, and running back was the only other option that they had. So those are the two positions they feel like they need to address. And just speaking with him a little bit before his pick was coming up, he was surprised that the cornerbacks fell like they did. So he's pretty set on one of two guys right now, either Gordon Powell or it's going to be Melvin Russell. So those are the two guys right there. It's going to be one of the two. They're still kind of trying to decide which guy they feel like is going to be best for that team, but they're definitely going to go cornerback here with this pick.
So Fat's calling definitely cornerback here on this pick. So the commissioner does get that card with good amount of time left. So I think Fat may know what he's talking about here. Ravens making a comeback. If that defense can hold, they may be looking at a chance at the playoffs here this season. And they do get the cornerback Russell, which is a good pick there. A lot of upside potential there to Russell. Good combine warrior. We'll see if he really can learn the playbook and play in a pro defense. Time will only tell with that. Pick number 21, we got the Houston Texans, the reigning AFC South champions, who pulled it out there in a division that was tight down to the wire. So in the AFC South, we're going to go ahead and go to Fat for another update here on the Houston Texans.
Yeah, and I believe at this point here, I think we're going to be looking for somebody else. The Texans actually said that they were looking to trade this pick here to the Arizona Cardinals. So they decided that they feel good with what they have, so they're going to try and move back, acquire some more picks, and improve upon this team.
So not the Houston Texans here, but rather the Arizona Cardinals, as we wait for the commissioner to come up with that pick. That pick I was involved in that earlier trade. Oh, excuse me. I apologize. That's a pick that I just got across my board here. So Houston goes ahead and sends the 21st pick to Arizona. Arizona sends back the 39th, the 71st, and the 103rd pick in this pick. So that is the Cardinals on the clock, not the Houston Texans, which means we're going to go out to the NFC West to talk to Bomber about the Arizona Cardinals.
We've got a trade.
Yeah, huge trade right now. The Cardinals come in and they move up. And for a team that said they pretty much felt like they had enough skill positions and they felt like they had enough starters right now, I kind of find it surprising that they're moving up in the draft right now. But if I was a betting man, I'd say the Cardinals are going to be looking for something on the defensive end. I like the defensive tackle from Jelani McKnight from Nebraska, as I spoke about before. I think he could make a huge impact on this defense that really, as I said earlier, there was a 31st against the rush. Well, here's the 32nd. They were dead last against the rush. I would think the only way you move up right now is for a stud like Jelani McKnight, because he's still on the board. He's still a player that can make an impact immediately, year one on your franchise. And I think this guy's a must-have for them, and that's the only reason we can explain them moving up in the draft.
So Bomber says Cardinals invest in that run defense. Once again, you saw the middle linebacker Taylor go early in this draft. So coming back around, really going all in here as they move up with the Houston Texans for this pick. Like Bomber said, there's got to be something big here in order for them to come up. You know, there's some good guys on the board, but when it does come to the top guys, Jelani McKnight out of Nebraska, physical freak. I'm talking this guy, he can overcome blockers. He's going to be a very good defensive tackle in the NFL. Not sure where he really fits in. I think Arizona's running a 3-4, kind of a tweener, maybe a 4-3, 3-4, more of a hybrid defense type of guy. But we'll have to wait and see what that looks like as we get down the road. Looks like the commissioner's got the pick. We're going to wait for the commissioner to read it off here.
The Bills are now on the clock.
And they go with
interesting.
outside linebacker Scott. Now, I think that's a value pick. Scott dropped one of the best pass rushers in this draft. Scott can get to the quarterback, probably better than anybody else. Had some concerns maybe on the physical aspects, but the Arizona Cardinals must feel like that he can overcome this and get to the quarterback in this league. So good value pick by the Arizona Cardinals here. They must have saw him dropping, felt like it was time to come up and get him. Good play by the Cardinals. Pick number 22, we got the Buffalo Bills, who, like I mentioned earlier, had that late season surge to come up. So they're here to pick at 22, and they rushed to the podium. So they must have liked what they saw on the board, as the commissioner's already got paper in hand here to go up and read the pick, and the commissioner's reading it off as we speak. And that's going to be the quarterback, Cook. So looks like the future in Buffalo is Cook. Not a little bit surprising there is the offense really has not been the issue in Buffalo, so we'll have to see how that one works out. Pick number 23, we've got the Seattle Seahawks, who have a stockpile of picks later in this draft, but for now we're looking at pick 23 of the Seattle Seahawks, which means we're going out west once again to Bomber for the pick.
All right, the Seahawks finished 10-6 last season. They limped into the wild card, and they got defeated in the first round. They wanted to shore up probably on the defensive end. I know they really like Trevani Scott, the left outside linebacker that just got taken at 21. But I'm going to say they go D-tackle. Jeffrey Austin was another guy on their radar. This guy was just a monster. He finished #1 in the bench press. He's great. He has great block shedding. He just was a power move machine in college. And I think that's where the Seattle defense should go, and it will help them get better pressure and allow for more sacks. I mean, this was already a vibrant defense, but I think they stay on the defensive side of the ball and try to improve on what they already were dominant in, just become even more dominant to help them take that division from Draco.
Yeah, defensive side of the ball could use some help. Wouldn't be surprised maybe for a halfback. Christian Michael had a great year last year, but when you look at him, you wonder where that production's coming from. Not physically imposing. He's not going to blow you away with any sort of measurables. However, he does have a way to find that yardage. So maybe something on the offensive side of the ball, maybe defensive tackle, like you mentioned. Always good for the Legion of Boom to solidify, and that could be something we're looking at here at pick number 23. Does look like the commissioner's got the card, so we're going to go to the commissioner for the pick.
The Falcons are now on the clock.
Bomber sources come through as it is the defensive tackle, Austin. The Legion of Boom gets a little bit stronger here at pick number 23 in the first round of the MBL Live Draft. Pick number 24, the Atlanta Falcons, finding themselves in a peculiar spot, a little lower in the draft than, a little higher in the draft than usual. Normally in contention, gets knocked out a little earlier in the playoffs than expected. Pick number 24, the Atlanta Falcons were going down to the NFC South. So Tom, tell us about these Falcons.
So as you mentioned, the Falcons are in a little bit different spot. They've bested the Panthers for every single season. Yeah, just forever. The Panthers finally won up them in the playoff game, but couldn't do anything from that. So the Falcons have a little bit earlier pick, as you said, but there's not many holes. We've seen them go middle linebacker, tight end recently. I really think they're just going to go for depth here. If we're looking defensively, they definitely need a safety, maybe an outside linebacker. Offensively, they want to pick up another wide receiver, possibly another running back. The running game wasn't quite as strong as it has been in years past last year. So I will look on the offensive side. They want to step up here, but I wouldn't be surprised to see some depth on the defense as well.
So a team built for Super Bowls has a down year, and they're probably just looking, like you said, for some depth. A lot of depth anywhere on the defensive side of the ball left on the board as they do get the pick into the commission. We're going to get that pick here in a second, but a lot of different options to go. But I can tell you they were a little disappointed there in that playoff loss to a team that they had basically owned for this entire career.
You can say that again.
For the entire career.
So now with the Panthers on the pick at number 25 here, we're talking about the Falcons owning them. The Panthers wanted a safety, and there you go. You see the Falcons take a safety one pick before them, so it just continues as it always has. But they had an unexpected retirement of the defensive end Michael Bennett there in Carolina. So I think that kind of shook up their draft board a little bit. They wanted to go cornerback, they wanted to go safety. But with that retirement, they kind of needed to change courses. I think they want that pass rush that Bennett was able to provide, the ability to stop the run. So I would like to see Carolina go defensive end. I think they want to go defensive end. It's all just going to depend if they have the talent available at pick number 25 here.
Yeah, what was interesting was they were looking to trade their wide receiver McCown, who had a really good year last year. Little surprise there. Not sure if they're not happy with his off-field production, on-field production, what he's doing in the locker room. But interesting there. Could maybe see a wide receiver go here. Who knows? But that was just something interesting we saw. Not big players in free agency as the pick comes in, and it's Powell, the cornerback. So not big players in free agency looking to build through the draft, and that's what they're going to do on the defensive side of the ball here at pick number 25. Pick number 26, we go out to the St. Louis Rams as the Draco defense reemerges, leading them to a division title in what was a pretty impressive season here. So we're going to go out to the NFC West for Bombers' take here on the St. Louis Rams.
Yeah, what a bounce back season Draco had. And for those who say Draco defense, what's the Draco defense? Well, let me tell you. Their defense, 11.6 points allowed, first. Their yards, 218.4, first. Their passing yards allowed 181.9, first. Their rushing yards allowed 36.5, first. They're finishing their division first. This Draco defense is the real deal, and I don't expect them to draft a defensive player right now in the first round. I do expect them to go with an offensive player, particularly a wide receiver. I still think they need some more depth there, even though Tercel Burns has been the guy for quite a while. But I think they're going to go with Marco Travis, Texas A&M, the Aggie. He's 5'9", 194. He just has that ability to get underneath and get some yards and play that conservative West Coast style offense that the St. Louis Rams like to run, and allow their defense to really play the field positioning game and allow their offense to score that way. So I think that would be a nice, safe pick for them.
Yeah, like you said, the defense has really come through the last season. The reemergence out there in the NFC West was somewhat surprising. Not sure we were going to get a chance to see that again, as it looked like they were sliding. Obviously, you had the Seahawks in play, but it looked like the Cardinals were going to surge past the Rams at one point. The Rams do end up turning it around, putting in a very interesting position here as the pick comes in here. Short time left on the clock, and the Rams do go on the offensive side of the ball for Williams, which brings up my Cincinnati Bengals on the clock.
Yeah, and I'll go ahead and take it over here. So a couple things that Sonny feels like he needs on his team. First of all, he talked about he thinks free agency kind of covered a lot of his needs. He doesn't feel like he has a ton of needs right now. A lot of this draft is looking for depth, possibly finding a guy that can fill a role down in the future there for this team. But a couple things that they're looking at. Clint Bowling starting to age a little bit. So that's a guy that they're kind of looking to possibly either find a replacement for year one, or, like I said, possibly be somebody in the future to take over for him when he finally does retire, or he isn't playing up to the level that they expect him to. So at the left guard position. And the other thing they talked about is an outside linebacker for this team. So they have a couple different options. They're not too sure what they want to do, but just based off what this team did last year, they finished 13-3. They made it in as a wild card simply because the division that they are in is really, really good, with the Steelers there, Lip, taking that division with only 2 losses on the year. So Bengals feel like they're in a good spot, don't have a ton of needs, but they are going to look at the offensive side of the ball on the line, most likely here with this pick.
And it looks like
so
Cincinnati
they actually decided to go with their secondary option there with that outside linebacker, White. So next up we have the Jacksonville Jaguars. They traded for these picks. They traded from their position up at the 6th overall pick to acquire some additional picks. So one of their 2 are going to be right here coming up. And they feel like they really have to address the offensive side of the ball. And when I say offensive side of the ball, I mean the offensive line. Something a little bit different about this draft is a lot of offensive linemen have gone. So it's going to be interesting to see what they decide to do here. That's what they feel like they needed to do, was go on offensive line, but I don't know who they really have left at this time that they could take. The only other guy, they are looking at left guard, so Calvin Austin is definitely a possibility for this team. So I would definitely look at them going towards that position here with one of these 2 picks. And then somewhere else on the offensive side, they need help up the middle too, with the center there as well.
They could use some help, obviously, anywhere across that offensive line. The best games the Jaguars had last season were where they committed to the run. They could get Yeldon going forward, get them those yards, and slow them down. Their defense is really the strength of this team, and so when you can keep a game in a manageable situation, it really allows that defense to come alive, be in the game. The problem was they just didn't have the line to make that happen. So as Fat mentions here at pick number 28, we're expecting an offensive lineman, and that is what we get here from the Jacksonville Jaguars. We rolled a pick number 29, which is also the Jacksonville Jaguars. Now, something to think about, they did lose Allen Robinson in free agency, so they could use another playmaker on that side of the ball, or like Thad had mentioned, they could commit to the run once again and maybe take another offensive lineman.
Yeah, and most likely I feel like that's what they're going to do. It's a great point you bring up about Allen Robinson, but that's not something they really looked at. They had a couple of young guys on that receiving core as well that they have been working with the last couple of seasons. So I don't. From what I hear, they don't feel like that's a need for them right now. So I definitely do see another offensive lineman coming here. Where exactly that spot is on the offensive line, I don't necessarily know, but I do feel like that pick is going to be on the offensive side.
Like we mentioned, anywhere up and down that line gives a chance to TJ Yeldon to keep games close in a very winnable division. This division is up for grabs every year, and these Jaguars can compete this year if they just solidify some things up and down that line. And it looks like they listen there as they take the center Lauderdale. So revamping the line here with 2 picks in the first round. Good moves by the Jacksonville Jaguars. Pick number 30. We've got Matthew Stafford, the Detroit Lions and Bomber, a team that likes to air it out. The departure of Calvin Johnson's got to hurt that franchise a little bit, but he was waning in his twilight years. They went in free agency, got some pass rushes, Melvin Ingram, and so expect the Lions to try to light people up a little bit on the defensive side of the ball. Though with Calvin Johnson gone, we may be looking at a wide receiver here maybe. Tom, what do you think here for the Lions?
Well, I think actually with Calvin Johnson retiring, I think that's going to make the Lions go to a little bit more of a conservative approach on offense. Amir Abdullah, he's had 1 or 2 good seasons, but ultimately hasn't really lived up to the potential that he's had. So I think they're really looking to go with the halfback here. Specifically, they're looking at a halfback, Corey Griffin from Alabama. The guy skipped the combine, so that could be a reason that they feel that he should have went earlier and has fallen because of those not having those combine stats. He's fallen a little bit. So I think this is definitely going to go with Alabama halfback Corey Griffin here to relieve Amir Abdullah from some of his duties and have a little bit more of a balanced approach here on offense.
The Lions are never one to shy away from the risky pick. Who can forget Brashard Cross? Liked that comment. So, the Lions are always one to take a risk on a player. So it wouldn't surprise me here if they do take a risk on a player here that wouldn't attend the combine. Character concerns are not the concerns of these Detroit Lions. So the pick's in, it is Griffin. We'll see if this works out for the Lions. Boomer bust pick here at pick number 30. We'll have to see how this goes. Pick number 31, the San Diego Chargers, the Super Bowl losing Chargers. A lot of work to be done there. The Chargers tried to make some splashes in free agency. Couldn't quite get it done. They were slinging the money, but it just wasn't coming through. So pick number 31, Chargers got to make some improvements. Where do we think we're going to go here, Lip, with the San Diego Chargers?
Well, as you mentioned, not only did they lose the Super Bowl this recent year, they lost one just a couple seasons ago. They're 0-2 in Super Bowls. And that's going to hurt for DK and the Chargers fan base there. But what I think they need to do is they've always played pretty solid defense. They've got good players. They know how to play ball on the defensive side. So I think that they need to go wide receiver. They have Keenan Allen. They have Doug Baldwin, but I think they need somebody a little better than Doug Baldwin there. They have John Brown that they like to use quite a bit, but another wide receiver in that mix could really make this offense extremely good. Also, Ladarius Green at tight end, that this could help the Chargers get over that hump and reach the Super Bowl and actually win it this time.
So the Chargers were in some pre-draft trade talks with the Cincinnati Bengals. Couldn't quite come to a deal before draft time, but it does match up with Lip's assessment that the Chargers do need wide receiver help as they were looking to get a wide receiver from the Bengals. Short time left here on the clock as the pick gets turned into the commissioner. We're expecting a wide receiver here, and let's see what happens.
The Bears are now on the clock.
And it is going to be the wide receiver, Travis. So San Diego going to get some help out there for Spriggs. Hopefully Spriggs this time to make the playoffs, as last year his season ended a little bit prematurely. Pick number 32's the Chicago Bears at pick number 32. This is a foreign field for them. Normally they're at pick number 33 or 34, but we're seeing the Bears at 32, so they get a second first-round pick here. A lot later than they're used to seeing, but we're going to go ahead and go out to Tom here for the Bears and their pick.
All right, so we saw the Bears earlier go with the left guard. I don't really know what they're going to do at quarterback. Do they go back to Brock Osweiler? Are they going to take a quarterback best available here? I don't think so. I think they like Brock. I think they're going to go with a wide receiver here. They get the guard, so their offensive line is a little bit more shored up. But as you mentioned earlier, Sonny, Alshon isn't getting any younger. They need to get some fresh legs out there, and I think they're going to go with wide receiver, as I said. I don't believe Travis was on the board as who they wanted here. I think they're more looking at wide receiver George Blake or Chris Patrick, and I believe one of those two guys are going to be who we're going to see Chicago go with right here.
So the picks into the commissioner getting ready to announce.
Are now on the clock.
And it is the wide receiver, Chris Patrick. So offensive weapon for Chicago. We mentioned earlier Alshon Jeffrey not getting any younger. They get another weapon up there in Chicago, and we'll see how that works out for them in a division that is loading up for an arms race, it appears. Pick number 33, we got the Miami Dolphins back around here. First pick of the second round. They go with the right tackle in the first pick overall, which was a little bit strange considering the talent so far we've seen in this draft. But Lip, tell us what we think the Dolphins are going to do here at pick number 33.
Well, as we talked whenever they were first up, they go out and get Rodgers in free agency. That gives them their quarterback. They then, with the first pick, take a tackle, which I liked. I like that they're giving him protection. They have some guys that they can get the ball to if they get protection, but they didn't have a very good run game this past season. I don't think that's so much the running backs issue because he's had good success in the past, but honestly, I think that they could continue to beef up the offensive line right here. If you just give Rodgers, just having him there is going to open up the run game. If you give him time, he is going to slay defenses. So if you give this offense another offensive lineman, it's going to make this team a lot better.
Yeah, so offensive line would definitely be the way to go to protect Rodgers. Rodgers needs some help down there in Miami, obviously, for the team that finished first overall with the first overall pick. Instead of the protection, they go for the weapon, hoping that maybe he can get the ball away and let something happen after the catch. So they go with the wide receiver Russell, a playmaker that you'd expect maybe to go a little earlier in this draft, but there were some questions about some of his physical attributes. Pick number 34, we're going down to the New Orleans Saints for the second pick here in the second round. So for the NFC South, we're going to go to Tom for the Saints.
So for the Saints, for the first pick, for anyone who's listened to the Extra Point podcast, you heard that we talked about Austin not being a top tier cornerback, and yet the Saints go and take him at number 2. And I don't see them improving and taking anything better here at number 34. The smart pick would be to take a non-skill position. As I mentioned earlier, again, we've seen them take skill positions early in the draft, and they've honestly really never panned out for New Orleans. There hasn't been too many great players that have come through there. So I want to see them go with someone like an offensive lineman, really try to shore up the front so the young quarterback can work behind them. But I don't think that's going to be what's happened. More than likely, they're probably going to go for another skill position, probably a wide receiver here, if I were to take a guess. And, it's anyone's guess how the guy's going to pan out.
The Saints have been a team consistently picking in the top 5 of the draft, a team that really has been able to put up the offensive numbers, but it's because they've been playing from behind. When you're losing that badly every game, obviously you're going to put up the offensive numbers. I would probably flip that script, look back to the defensive side of the ball, maybe try to stop someone for a change. It's a team that, like I said, is picked historically in the top 5, so they need something to really change up that franchise. I'm not sure they're going to get it here with an offensive weapon, but let's see what the pick is.
The 49ers are now on the clock.
So they go with the offensive lineman Duncan. So rather than getting the flashier weapon, they're going to build from the trenches, try to protect their quarterback, maybe get a little more time in there and slow that game down. Pick number 35, we got the San Francisco 49ers. But before I do that, I want to go ahead and announce one of our sponsors. Web3ks.com is a sponsor of MBL Live as well as Madden Bomber League in general. Make sure you check out Web3ks.com for all your affordable graphic needs. Pick 35, the San Francisco 49ers out in the NFC West. We've talked a lot about them so far this draft, but for the 49ers coverage, Bomber, where we think we're getting with these 49ers?
Well, they went left tackle in the first round, and I think that was very smart for them as they finished dead last in passing yards this year. Give Nick Leonard a little bit more time to sit in the pocket and make his reads, but I think this is the chance that they got. They can't pass on the Oklahoma shooter Deron Blake, the wide receiver. He's 5'11", 192. He's very shifty, and he's got the speed to make an immediate impact on a team that lacks that athleticism. You need that athleticism to keep the defense honest and not allow them to just crowd the box. So I think that they're going to go with Deron Blake from Oklahoma, and I think that's going to help open up Cameron Gilbert and Torrey Smith outside for the San Francisco 49ers.
So, obviously, you mentioned helping the outside receivers. That 49ers offense has struggled on that side of the ball for quite a few seasons at this point. They did show some signs of life at a few points last season. Getting a couple touchdowns in a game was definitely a moral victory for the team, but time to move on from moral victories to real victories on paper, and that's something that's going to take a lot of work here by this front office. As we come down to the end of the clock here, and it does appear they're going to get this pick into the commissioner. Like Bomber said, you could see something on either side of the ball here. A lot of work to be done, but the defensive side of the ball needs some help as much as the offense. So as the pick gets read here, we could go either way on these 49ers.
The Falcons are now on the clock.
And the
Jelani
pick comes
McKnight.
in. Yep, and that's Bomber's favorite player so far in this draft. Jelani McKnight. Been pimping that guy for quite a few picks now. Nice to see McKnight go here to the 49ers at pick number 35. Pick number 36, we go to the Atlanta Falcons. We talked about the Falcons earlier. Really, they go with the free safety Burton, not needing a whole lot, but they can always improve that depth in case of injury. So for the NFC South, we're going to go to Tom and these Falcons.
Yeah, so as you just said, we talked about the Falcons, I think 11 picks ago, and really nothing has changed since last pick. Excuse me. Nothing has changed since last pick. They just want depth. That's all they need. They got the safety. This pick, we've only seen, I believe, one halfback go so far, so I would not be surprised to see them go halfback, possibly pick up a wide receiver, maybe a cornerback. But I think more than likely they're looking at depth at one of the main skill positions here.
Interesting you mentioned halfback at this point. They did acquire pick number 36 here from the Green Bay Packers by trading their backup halfback, Efren Jennings. So you could see something maybe on the offensive side of that ball. Obviously, Coleman's the man there for now, but they could always use some help on the back end. And the pick does appear to be in, and it's wide receiver Blake. So rather than finding some help at the halfback position, they're looking to the wide receiver. They were trying to make some plays in free agency, couldn't get it done. So instead, they get Blake here early in the second round, and he should be contributing on this offense quickly. Pick number 37, it's the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So we're going to stay down in the NFC South. What are you hearing out of Tampa Bay front office?
Tampa Bay's really pretty much, again, the same as I've said last time when they were up. There's a couple spots they need. They need some offensive line. They need some receivers. They need some corners. It's going to be one of those more than likely. We saw them surprise. I think they went with a quarterback earlier in the draft, right?
Correct.
Yeah, so kind of shook things up there at the quarterback. Maybe they think this guy is the guy, and if they truly do, then do not be surprised to see him, to see the Bucs go out and get a wide receiver, give him some help, or go up front and get an offensive lineman, try to protect him there. So more than likely, that's where I see the Bucs going. But really, it's anyone's guess. They've already thrown us a huge curveball already, so who knows?
Who knows indeed. So the Bucs, they're known to throw some curveballs at you. Last year, we thought they'd be going cornerback early in the draft. They went outside linebacker instead. We thought in the second round they had to go cornerback. They went another linebacker instead. So you never know what's going on out of Tampa Bay. Front office is always quite cryptic when it comes to what kind of information
and
they
also
let get
to
out.
interject, they got rid of Werner because they felt he was diminishing his athleticism, and then this year they went after a cornerback, and they said there's no way they're going to miss on this cornerback. So you get conflicting views coming out of Tampa Bay front office.
Yes, like you mentioned, they cut bait with Vernon. They do bring in Vontae Davis, another older corner. So they trade one older corner for another, but they're not going corner here as they look to the left tackle Clay. So they try to solidify the offensive line. It makes sense. You go quarterback in the first round. Why not protect his blind side here in the second? Pick number 36, we're going to Kansas City to talk Chiefs football here. So to talk Chiefs football, we're going to bring in Lip. What do we got to see out of these Kansas City Chiefs to try to regain the top spot in a really good AFC West.
Yeah, it's going to be kind of difficult. It's very weird to see the Chiefs have the down year that they did, but they're in a very tough division, so it's not extremely surprising that they had a tough time this year. I talked with Chiefs ownership, and they said that they would like to get a skill player, but I'm looking here, and Conley, Reynolds, DeAnthony Thomas, these guys all had very good receiving years. Conley up over 1,100 yards, Reynolds and Thomas both over 700 yards. I think their wide receivers are okay. The other position that the Chiefs ownership was interested in was offensive line. He felt that there was a lot of pressure on Blake Bortles, so if he can grab some offensive linemen here in this draft, I know that we've seen a pretty decent run on them. If there's any left, they can go there, get some protection for Blake Bortles, and get back in that AFC West hunt.
So they do go with the offensive lineman Winston. Starting to see a bit of a run on offensive linemen again here early in the second round. In a draft that's not really deep with them, this could get interesting. Could kick off a bit of a chain reaction here. As we look to see what's going to happen the rest of this draft. Pick number 39, we're back here to the Houston Texans. Houston Texans, like we mentioned, they found their way into the playoffs, had an early exit in the first round, but showing a lot of improvement. So for the AFC South champion, Houston Texans, what are we expecting out of them, Fat?
Well, they made a move in the first round. They're trading that first round pick away to those Arizona Cardinals. But right now, their mindset that they have is they want to take the best player available in whatever position that may be. Now, personally, for me, kind of taking a look at this team, like you said, they've improved every single year. Finally, got that division title under their belt. But I think offensive line is where they need to go here. But like I said, their mindset, best player available, could be on either side of the ball. So don't be surprised if they do something here on the defensive side as well.
Are now on the clock.
And that's what they do. They go with the right outside linebacker Jeffrey, who was projected as a late first-round pick, slipped here into the second round, most likely due to a little bit of a run there on offensive players. Jeffrey, a great 4-3 outside linebacker. Not sure quite how he fits into that multiple front Texans defense, but we could see him maybe slide inside the middle linebacker or be more of a contained type guy there in that 3-4 defense. Well, that's something we'll have to watch as we go forward. So for a team that didn't need a whole lot, the Falcons are looking like they're going to pick a whole lot here at pick number 40. Maybe this is where we see the halfback. I don't know. Tom, what are your thoughts?
Well, I kind of feel like a broken record talking about the Falcons here, but the truth of it is honestly the Falcons really don't know where they're going. They've went into this draft, as I said, for depth, and really what they said is we're taking best available at most spots. The 4 spots that I said they were going to take: safety, linebacker, halfback, wide receiver. So far, we've seen a free safety with the first pick. With their early second round pick, we saw the wide receiver. Do we see the halfback here? Possibly. The only other option I would see is linebacker. Like I said, those are the only 2 remaining spots of depth that they said they wanted. And with another early second round pick here, we could see either, as I mentioned last pick, we've still only seen 1 halfback go, so let's look for that.
And the pick is the halfback Hilliard, so they find their replacement, Efren Jennings, who did depart in a trade to the Green Bay Packers in the offseason. So Hilliard looking to be the backup to Coleman, maybe spell him a little bit throughout the season. Pick number 44, how about them Cowboys? We're going to go down to Bomber in the NFC East to talk about the Dallas Cowboys and what we're looking to see here at pick number 41.
Yeah, exactly. How about them Cowboys? They went with the wide receiver in the first round to help pair with Dez Bryant and Otha Roseman. They really wanted to stop the rush. They finished the season strong, actually. They won 3 of their last 4 games. Their rushing attack definitely needs, their rush defense definitely needs to be addressed, and that's why they're going to go with B.J. Stallworth from UCLA. The Bruin plays a perfect 4-3 scheme that will fit perfectly with the Dallas Cowboys and what they're running today. 6'1", 243 pounds. He had a great combine. Some called him a combine warrior. He definitely helped improve his draft stock when he went to the combine, and I think he's going to be a great addition to the team, and I'm pretty much confirmed that that's where they're going to go right now.
So the pick is in here for Dallas as we wait for the commissioner to read it, and it's the outside linebacker Stallworth. So it sounds like the Cowboys originally had targeted Jeffrey as their pick here at 41, but with the Texans taking him at 39, they settle with their backup pick of Stahl. We're still looking to help out that defense. Pick number 42, the Tennessee Titans took a little bit of backslide this year. Obviously, we talked about them trying to make some plays in free agency for cornerbacks. Found that cornerback help in the first round. What are we looking for them to do here to try to regain that AFC South crown, Fat?
Yeah, and they feel like that what they need to do right now is they need to be a little bit better on the offensive side. So one thing they've talked to me about is possibly going tight end here with this pick. The guy that I see would be perfect for them right now, and I think be extremely valuable here, would be Ronald Francis out of Tennessee. Big guy, stands 6 foot 6 inches tall, and he just showed off really well at the combine. Great hands, big hands, seemed to catch everything that went his way. So the only other thing that they talked about possibly doing here, if they did not go with that tight end, would be a safety. They just want a difference maker, somebody back there to kind of play center field for him a little bit as well. So look at most likely tight end, but a possible safety selection as well.
So the Tennessee boy stays home as Francis goes to the Titans at pick number 42 and trying to give Marcus Mariota a safety blanket there. And that's something Francis, I think, is going to do well. Not going to offer much after the catch, but he should be a good chain mover there in Tennessee. Pick number 43, we talked about these Patriots earlier and their big move for Harrison Smith. They signed the strong safety to pair with them, so they got the back end of their defense covered. What do we think we're going to get here, Lip, for the New England Patriots?
Yeah, I think with that defense being locked up now with their free agent signing and their first-round draft pick, I think now you're going to see them go to the offensive side of the ball. They talked about wanting another wide receiver and some offensive linemen. I think they can go either one of those positions and make their team better. I'd like to see them go offensive line. I see a hole there on that offensive line. I think they still have weapons that are good enough for them to win their division and make a playoff run, but I want the protection to get better in New England. So I think right now they have to go somewhere on that offensive line.
And that's what they do. They go with Hill, the right tackle. Now, Hill, coming into the season, was projected at probably the first right tackle off the board. Obviously, that didn't happen as Dolphins went right tackle to start, but Hill dropped throughout the draft process. Some questions on if he can actually pass protect or not. In the new NFL, you got to be able to both run protect and pass protect on both ends. The best defensive ends don't always line up on that left-hand side anymore, which means both guys have to be big, got to be athletic, and got to be able to pass protect. We'll see if Hill can end up doing that. Pick number 44, we got the Kansas City Chiefs. Getting to see those Chiefs again. So AFC West dominant to AFC West basement. Those Chiefs need to rebound. Lip, what are we expecting here out of these Chiefs?
Yeah, just like we talked about there, they went offensive lineman last time. They were interested in wide receiver. I don't think that they need it. I think that they could go offensive line here and improve their team, but I think that with taking an offensive lineman just a few picks ago, that they could go after a wide receiver if there's one out there that they really like. I still hold strong to the wide receiver stats that this team put up last year, but I want to see them run the ball a little better, and I want them to have better protection. So I think if there's a good enough lineman at pick 44, they should snatch him up right now.
So the pick is coming in for the Chiefs. You were talking about good offensive linemen, and good lines protect quarterbacks Blake Bortles, and the pick is not going to be linemen. It's going to be a wide receiver. So hopefully Bortles is able to get rid of that ball. You've got some defenses out there in the West that they're not the best defenses. It tends to be an offensive-minded division. So we'll see if Bryant helps the Chiefs keep pace with the other offensive juggernauts in that division. So pick number 45, we get to see those Chicago Bears again. We saw them right at the tail end there of the first round. They're coming back around here for pick number 45. And for this pick, we're going to head out to Tom for the Chicago Bears pick.
So as we've seen with the Bears already, we went offensive lineman, we went wide receiver. So it looks like they're getting help for the quarterback. Are they going to go with the quarterback here, or are they going to go with Brock? I think they're staying with Brock. And as Sonny, as you mentioned earlier, with the Colts and tight end being the best friend, I think right now what they want to do is they want to get Brock a best friend out there. And they're going to go with a tight end, I believe. One thing I've been hearing is they like the big guy Hunter Patrick out of LSU. The guy's got good hands. He can jump. He's not the fastest tight end, but he's going to get the job done. He's going to catch anything you throw at him, and that's who they really like. So I think that's who they're going to go with here at number 45.
The Redskins are now on the clock.
And they do get the tight end Patrick, so they get a wide receiver, they get a tight end. They're trying to beef up that offense a little bit in Chicago. Like we talk about, it's an arms race out there in the NFC North, and Chicago wants to get in on the race. Pick 46, we're in the NFC East to talk Washington Redskins. You know, Washington Redskins, I know they're a big fan of line play. Bomber, could we see a guard here at pick number 46?
Well, they went left tackle in the first round, so I expect the Redskins to go stay on the defensive side this time and probably look towards going safety or possibly somewhere else in the secondary. But if they go ahead and go safety, I really like Colton Terry from Tennessee. He just plays he plays great zone coverage, and he has a speed and athleticism that they like back there. They have Stephen Griffin, who's been a stud for them, only 26 years old. And if they can pair him next to Colton Terry, I think they can make for a formidable duo in the secondary.
So we think we're going to get some secondary help out in Washington, and that makes sense when you've got the Super Bowl champion New York Giants out there. Obviously, it wasn't the $1 million man Teddy Bridgewater leading the way. It was actually backup Ryan Tannehill after suffering an injury in the divisional round. It made for an interesting, conference round. It made for an interesting Super Bowl where we would pit two backup quarterbacks against each other with the Giants coming out on top. So makes sense for that high-powered offense from the Giants. You'd want to try to stack the back end of your defense. So possibly some secondary help for the Redskins? Maybe, but we're going to have to wait and see as we're waiting here for the pick to come in from the commissioner. And they do go ahead and get the pick up to the commissioner. And as we wait for that, once again, I'd like to remind everybody, MBL Live, as well as this draft, is brought to you by web3ks.com. Make sure to check out web3ks.com for all your graphic needs. Don't quite go with the secondary there in Washington. They go with the right tackle, Howell, a projected first rounder who apparently did a little backsliding down into the second round. Some questions there throughout, maybe his functional strength. He only went with 35 reps at the combine, so they wanted him to be a little bit stronger to play on the outside. Not quite there yet, but in an NFL weight room, I think Howell can get that strength up, be a good pick there for the Washington Redskins. Pick number 47. We're going to get the Oakland Raiders. We didn't see the Oakland Raiders in the first round. Obviously, that was part of that trade last year to move up, get the cornerback who helped solidify that secondary. But pick number 47, second pick of the 15th round, we're going to get to see the Raiders for the first time today, which means we're going to get to talk to Lip about the Raiders.
Yeah, the Raiders, like you said, they have a really good draft history. They put together a nice secondary over the last couple drafts. The only thing is, right now, they're looking at quarterbacks for this pick in this draft. Yes, I said quarterback. I don't like it. I think that with Aldon Smith going, they need to take the defensive end. I don't think that they should go after a quarterback. I think that they should let Carr have his job and be the guy, fill up that defensive line to get pressure so that you can improve how the play in your drafted secondary works. I think with increased pressure, they get a defensive end here. That's going to help out that really good secondary and their team overall.
So Aldon Smith gone. They're going to need some help there across from Khalil Mack. So Lip calls defensive end here. Quarterback, kind of a meltdown move. They go end instead, but quarterback would have been a complete meltdown move for the Raiders. Obviously, they were in play for Aaron Rodgers. Rodgers ended up choosing to go down to Miami, took his talent south to South Beach. But the Raiders do the smart play, go with the right end Hamilton. So Khalil Mack has a running mate across from him as Aldon Smith found a new home in Indy. Pick number 48, we got the San Francisco 49ers up once again in the draft. We're talking NFC West here, which means we're going to head out to Bomber for a take.
Okay, don't sleep on the 49ers. They're quietly having one of the best drafts in the MBL right now. They went left tackle in the first round. The second round, they got that D tackle, Jelani McKnight, who easily could have won top 15. And now I think it's finally time to take that wide receiver. They've been eyeing Ronaldo Hunter from Florida State. He's 6'1", 213. He's got the size. He's got the strength to play outside, but he also has the quickness and the elusiveness to play in the slot. And I think he would be a nice big target for Nick Leonard, and he would fit well with the San Francisco 49ers.
So the 49ers may be getting some help. It's interesting, like we talked about, this is a division that's kind of been flipped recently. You got the historically dominant Seattle Seahawks, who we're going to see throughout this round and the next, with a lot of picks stockpiled. But the historically dominant Seahawks take a little bit of a step back. You've got the St. Louis Rams jumping into the driver's seat. The Cardinals kind of lingering in that 2-3 spot, dropping a little bit to 4 occasionally, but really these 49ers have been solidified down at the bottom of the NFC West. So going to need some sort of big overhaul here in San Francisco, and that could start here at pick number 48 as we're expecting maybe to see a wide receiver. But who knows? The 49ers, like a lot of other teams here in NBL, they can go with the wind. So whichever way the wind blows, could take those 49ers with them as the commissioner gets ready to read this pick.
The Seahawks are now on the clock.
So they ask you something on the offensive side of the ball instead for a middle linebacker, Mays, here at pick 48. So San Francisco tries to up the defense. And speaking of defense, the Seattle Seahawks and the Legion of Boom back here on the clock. They go defensive tackle with their last pick. Pick number 49, Bomber in the NFC West. What are we doing?
Yeah, as you mentioned, Seattle went defensive tackle in the second round. A great pick. I really like the guy that they selected. I think this round they're going to go ahead and probably have to go with offensive line. I really like the left guard, Brandon Jones from Lehigh University. This guy's a great run blocker, and that's what they really prided themselves on last year with Christian Michael carrying for the majority of the loads. Really helped Seattle move the ball and allow for their play action to really be more effective. So I think going with Brandon Jones right here would be a great pick for this team, but I also could see them going in a different direction on the offensive line. There's a right guard named Trey Matthews from UT. He also is great on the run block, slightly better, slightly bigger build, but he just didn't have the success. He didn't live up to the potential in his senior year at Texas. So it's between Trey Matthews at right guard and Brandon Jones at left guard would be my two selections that the Seattle shouldn't pass on at this point in the draft.
So Christian Michael looking for some help up front. We talked about Michael's ability to basically make something out of nothing, even though you wouldn't expect it from the guy. He's found quite a career up there in Seattle. So some help on the offensive side of the ball would be a welcome sight for Michael. So pick number 49 is up in the commissioner's hands as he gets ready to read it.
The Jets are now on the clock.
They keep adding to the
Wow.
Legion of Boom in Seattle, and the Seattle fans love it. Outside linebacker Hicks, he can play on both sides of the ball. They got him listed as a left outside linebacker, but he can play on either side in that Seattle defense. Obviously, the Legion of Boom knows where their roots lie, and that's in good, hard-hitting defense, and Hicks brings that to the Seattle Seahawks. Good pick there for Seattle at pick number 49. We're at pick number 50 for the New York Jets out in the AFC East. We talked about it earlier in the draft. The AFC East is up for grabs, it seems, as the Patriots, who one time thought was invincible in that division, has kind of come back to reality. They've fallen a lot in the last year or so, which means these Jets have a chance to make a move, and now would be the time to do it. So for the AFC East, we're going to go to Lip to find out what the Jets are thinking with this pick.
Yeah, I think that the Jets believe in the defense that they have. Their quarterbacks might be able to use some depth, but they believe in what they have, and what they're lacking in, at least what they feel like they don't have the offensive power. So they're just looking for guys that can come in and just bringing in a bunch of wide receivers, figuring out who steps up, and then rolling with them. I've talked to them a little bit here. They're looking at a group of wide receivers at pick number 50. This is going to give their young quarterback, like I said, a group of targets, find out who he likes best, who works well, get that chemistry rolling, and provide them an offense that can get them a division title.
So in the hunt for a division title, we think we're going to get a wide receiver out there. Obviously, we saw Farmer come earlier. And Lip predicts we're going to get another wide receiver here at pick number 50 to the New York Giants. So the pick is into the commissioner.
The Vikings are now on the clock.
And they do add another wide receiver at pick number 50. So Hunter and Farmer are going to get up there in New York, get working out immediately, trying to find a way to see if they can help that offense score some more points. Pick number 51, we're back in the NFC North. Earlier in this draft, we were a little miffed at what these Vikings were trying to do. They're turning it into an arms race with wide receiver Bryant. So pick number 51, not sure if we go back to the defensive side of the ball, maybe see some help in the front line trying to get to Matthew Stafford and the other quarterbacks of the division. But that's something left to be seen. Tom, what do we expect here from the Vikings?
Well, as I said last time, the Vikings had to take defense, and they go with wide receiver. Truthfully, I don't understand it. If you look at the roster, they have one free safety and one strong safety, neither of which are any good. Their free safety, who they now have starting after Harrison Smith left, is absolutely horrible. He shouldn't even be on a roster, to be honest. And they didn't take a free safety. We've seen the top free safety, maybe the top two go. I think they have to go free safety. I don't see why they wouldn't go free safety here. I mean, it would absolutely blow my mind if that's not the pick right here.
So something in the secondary, Blanton and Smith gone. Remember, Smith did get that big deal out of New England. 3 years, $72 million. He was the free agent gem this past offseason. So with Smith gone, obviously Blanton's gone. I believe Blanton ends up in Chicago. That back end is looking scarce. So some sort of defensive help in the secondary, free safety, strong safety. Still some decent guys on the board that you could see them making a pick either which way. You know, one guy that I'm kind of fond of, and rather than even get into that, it looks like the pick's in from the commissioner. So we're going to go ahead and go to the commissioner for this one. But a lot of still good safeties on the board here at pick 51. And once again, they are not a fan of defending the pass apparently. So they go with the right tackle, Jose. So Jose. Hopefully Jose can play defense. We're on to pick number 52 here in the draft. 20th pick of the second round for the upstart Baltimore Ravens. We mentioned it in the first round. They've really turned the franchise around since taking over. Pricey's done a great job out there. And so here at pick number 52, what are we thinking, Fat?
Well, I talked about it a little bit before. They went and got their guy with their first-round pick. They said cornerback for sure in the first round, especially with how they dropped. They found the guy that they wanted, and then they said for a fact that they are going to go running back here with this pick. There's a couple different guys to choose from. We got Marcus Knight, Brian Boyd, but the one guy that they said they really, really fell in love with is Cole Odom out of Florida State. They think that he can do the job for him. He's a little bit smaller of a back. Not very tall, so they're expecting him to, but I mean, he's got some weight on him as well, so they think that he can do a couple different things for this offense, and they really think that he can be a difference maker and a little change of pace back there in Baltimore.
So the pick's Odom, a power back. Really like this guy, really strong, good speed. He's going to be an in-between the tackles runner in Baltimore for a long time. Quite the pick there for the Baltimore Ravens at pick number 52. Projected in the first round, slides to the middle of the second round. Pick number 53, I'm hearing some rumors here that this pick may be getting traded away. It sounds like the Seattle Seahawks are going to go ahead and acquire this pick from the Houston Texans. They're going to send picks 81, 87, and 151 to the Texans for this pick. So the Seattle Seahawks, who already had a lot of picks in this draft, they package a couple of those together to come up to pick 53, and they're going to make a move here. So for this NFC West pick, Bomber, what do we think they came up for?
From what I've been told, it was offensive line. They have this 53rd pick, and then they also have the 55th pick, I believe, and they're looking at taking the left guard that was mentioned prior, Brandon Jones, or the right guard, Trey Matthews. They're really leaning towards Trey Matthews, but a couple in the front office really think Brandon Jones would be a better development offensive lineman. So I'm pretty sure it's going to be between one of those two players.
So, two players to choose from. We talked about it earlier. Christian Michael's a fan of getting somebody to block for him out there in Seattle. They added to the Legion of Boom with the left outside linebacker with the last pick. So, Bomber thinks we're going to get a guard, left guard Matthews, or right guard. Yes, right guard Matthews, left guard Jones. So either one of those guys would be good picks. Obviously, Lehigh, a smaller school, and Jones, probably not as great coaching there. Maybe a little better prospect long term, but I think Matthews is the guy that can come in and play right away. Who knows? They got 2 of the next 3 picks. You could see maybe both get a tandem of Matthews and Jones working together. That's something we'll just have to wait around and see. But the Seahawks obviously saw someone on their board that they just loved, that they came up to get, as they traded some pretty good firepower to come up here. You know, once again, I'll read you that trade. The Texans send the 53rd overall to Seattle, and Seattle sent back the 81st, 87th, and 151st pick in this draft. So a lot of stuff to move there, and they do go with Matthews, the right guard out of Texas. So they picked the more ready-made prospect over maybe the better long-term prospect than Jones out of Lehigh, but nonetheless, good pick for the Seattle Seahawks. Pick number 54, where he got the Buffalo Bills out of the AFC East. Somebody that really I thought came on well at the end of last year, just missed short of the playoffs. They're looking to make a move right here that can put them in a position to contend for this division. So, Lip, what are we expecting to see here out of these Buffalo Bills?
Well, the Bills, like you said, had a good season last year. I'm looking at their roster, and I feel like they could use an offensive lineman, but I'm talking to the owner, I'm talking to the general manager, and they are saying they're going to go with halfback Marcus Knight. It appears that Ashton Bryan's run as the starting halfback for the Buffalo Bills, along with Carlos Williams, it looks like those guys are just not going to get it done. They're looking at Marcus Knight to come in and be a running back to open up the pass game. They want him to come in, just carry the ball, open up that offense. They feel that that is their step into progressing through the playoffs. Halfback Marcus Knight.
And that is the pick. And, you know, we see the further devaluation of halfbacks in the league. Obviously, Knight, projected first-round talent. Some thought he could even be a mid to early first-round pick, falls all the way here to pick number 54. Great value for Buffalo, but something that's a little bit surprising. And you know, we saw Odom go a few picks before. You know, outside of Griffin, who was a little bit of a wild card, these two I had as the best backs on my board, and surprised to see them last this long. Pick number 55, we're coming back around to the Seahawks. They traded up in the pick number 53. Who are we looking at here at pick number 55, Bomber?
Pick number 55, I'm thinking it's going to go Brandon Jones. I would assume that's why they moved up to take both of those young guys, see which one's going to develop first, and start that guy while you put in work with the other one to basically redefine your offensive line and bring in 2 young rookies that have potential to be Pro Bowlers.
So we may be looking at twin guards here. Interesting move here by the Seattle Seahawks if it's true. They come up and they get Matthews, the right guard out of Texas. Jones in here at 55, the maybe better long-term prospect out of Lehigh, but still needs a lot of work. Technique could be refined. Passing, you know, his pass protection is questionable at times, but nonetheless, still a good prospect here for the Seattle Seahawks. So sounds like that's the way they may be going according to Bomber sources as the pick is in.
The Falcons are now on the clock.
And there it is, Jones. So you get the twin guards in Matthews and Jones, and good play by Seattle. Somebody happy right now has got to be Christian Michael, as he's going to get that interior line beefed up with 2 good young prospects. Pick number 56, we've got the Atlanta Falcons, who we're talking about a lot in this draft, but not a whole lot needed. They do get the backup halfback they were looking for after trading away Ephraim Jennings earlier this offseason. So at pick number 56, we're going to head out to Tom for the NFC South coverage of the Atlanta Falcons.
And for the Falcons, as it's been for all drafts, we got another depth pick coming up here. We've seen them get their halfback, they got their receiver, they got their safety. Right now, they have defensive end Malik Jackson over there, getting a little older. Other side, they got Vic Beasley, who's still in his prime, but they don't have any backups for these guys, so we haven't really seen too many defensive ends taken off the board yet. I think that the Falcons are looking at that right now. They're seeing that there's still some, at the back end of the second round, they're seeing some upper second round talent there. So I think that's what we're gonna see here. I think they're gonna go for the defensive end to back up Malik Jackson and Vic Beasley here.
The Panthers are now on the clock.
So pick number 56, that is in fact what we get. We get the end Ferris, who's going to fit right in that 4-3 scheme. More of a finesse type rusher. Great get up, good 3-cone score at the combine. Expect this guy to get to the quarterback a lot in that division. So pick number 57, staying in the NFC South, we've got the Carolina Panthers, who overcame not owning the division, however making it on a wild card matchup and beating the Falcons in the wild card matchup. So big momentum swing for these Panthers last season. What are we expecting here to keep that rolling, Tom?
Well, as I said last pick, they need a defensive end to replace their retirement of Michael Bennett. They also wanted a safety, and the Falcons took a safety, and here they go. The Falcons take a defensive end right before them again. So I don't know who specifically they were looking for. Possibly both times it was both guys taken ahead of them. But as I said, I do think they want to go defensive end here because Michael Bennett did retire and they need a replacement for him. They need a cornerback. They were going for Vontae Davis, but they missed out on that. So they're lacking a cornerback here. And same as last time again, that they needed a safety but the Falcons looking more forward. So any one of those three spots is where I see Carolina going here, but they could opt for something else on the offensive side instead.
So Carolina is all over the board at this point, it sounds like. A lot of different directions we could see these Panthers go here. Pick number 57. The Panthers, like I mentioned, they did get a little bit of a turnaround, and so they got to do something here to keep this momentum rolling as the clock ticks down here for their pick in the second round. And it looks like that pick is going to get just in the nick of time to the commissioner. So pick 57's in, and we're going to wait here for the commissioner to read that off. And it looks like it's going to be the strong safety, Clark. So we haven't seen a strong safety go since the first round when we saw one go to the New England Patriots. So I had Clark as the second strong safety on my board, projected in the first round. He slides all the way here to the back end of the second round. Good value pick there in Carolina. Not sure how he's going to fit in the short run. However, it's a good value pick for a team that's looking to just build up assets at this time. Pick 58, St. Louis Rams, the NFC West Division champions. We've seen the Seattle Seahawks make some plays here to try to regain that crown. So obviously these Rams are going to have to do something to ward them off. So pick 58, Bomber, what do we think we're going to get here out of the Rams?
Well, the Rams they re-signed Nick Fairley last year, so their D-tackle and defensive line is really stout with Robert Quinn, Aaron Donald, Nick Fairley, basically keeping the core together and adding a young rookie a couple seasons ago, Antoine Kitchens. So I think the St. Louis Rams are probably going to go on the offensive end, and I would go ahead and say that I like the halfback out there right now. He's been sitting there for a while. His name is Shane Flowers. I think he'd be a nice change of pace. He's 5'10", 231 pounds. He's tough to bring down. I know they really like Todd Gurley over there, but I think this guy will bring just a different aspect to the running game and allow them to really ground and pound a little bit better than they have been.
So Bombers calling a change of pace back here in the second. Maybe give Gurley some breathers, make him more effective when he's in the game. Still kind of early, maybe. I got Flowers maybe being more of a third round pick. However, anytime you can keep your offensive weapon, which is Gurley, fresh, it's a good day. So pick is in, and it's going to be outside linebacker Ferris, who was more of a slider than I expected in this draft, dropping to the end of the second, but good pick there for that defense in St. Louis. So pick 59 is my Cincinnati Bengals.
Yeah, and we talked about earlier, they talked about Clint Bowling aging and needing a replacement for him. On the offensive side, on the offensive line, they took the outside linebacker with that first round pick, and I still think that they're looking to help Bowling in this season. So possibly left guard here, but they also talked about there was a halfback they liked. They felt like they could possibly get him here at this pick here late in the second round, but they don't think that he'll be available when they come around again in the third round. So it's something to kind of look out for. They said that they might be able to take their guy with this pick, but they're scared that they won't be able to get back to him in the third round. So offensive line most likely, but possibly a halfback here with this pick. Wow, and it actually looks like they went somewhere else with that pick. It looks like they're going to go ahead and take a quarterback here with that pick. So interesting. And next up, we're going to go to the same division, keep it in the division here. Lip Ripper, his first pick here in this draft. One thing he really talked about that he feels like they needed to do is Calais Campbell did retire at the end of the season. So they feel like they need to go out and get another defensive tackle to replace him. So I would definitely see that here. They also talked about a wide receiver once again. I know on MBL Live we talked about how Antonio Brown is aging. He's not the same wide receiver that he used to be, but I think Martavis Bryant really stepped up in that role. We saw him in that NBL Live game in the playoffs, had a huge game against those Denver Broncos. So I don't think that they really need to go there right now, but defensive tackle is important. You need to stop the run, need to get to the quarterback, so I feel like that's what they're going to do right here and take themselves a defensive tackle.
Yeah, the Steelers were looking for some help in free agency. They got some more depth guys. They were in play a couple times on the defensive line. Not sure how that ended up, but it's something to keep an eye on. Like you mentioned, Calais Campbell did retire, which means there are some voids there. They did cut Greg Hardy, who never really panned out in that 3-4 system, more of a better fit in a 4-3 or defensive end setup. To give a little explanation there on the quarterback at pick number 59, more of a value pick. We felt like Perkins was one of the best players in this draft, and at pick number 59, that would be a good way to go. So Perkins gets the pick up to back up Powell, maybe pushing for a starting job, which may spell the end of Andy Dalton. Pick number 60 is in, and the Steelers go to the offensive side of the ball. Like you mentioned, Antonio Brown's aging, so they go with the wide receiver Dial, and so they add another weapon there for Lucky Jordan, who kind of he stuttered a little bit in the playoffs. They couldn't find anybody outside of Martavis Bryant, so this makes sense here as Dial gives them another option outside of Bryant. Pick number 61 is the Jacksonville Jaguars as we get ready to close out round 2 here of the MBL Live Draft. Jacksonville at pick number 61, they go offensive line early in the draft back-to-back. So pick number 61, what are we thinking we're going to get here out of them, Lip? Or excuse me, Fat.
So like you said, they went back-to-back on the offensive line in the first round after they traded their pick. So they're able to definitely do it. They did a great job, I feel like, in shoring up that offensive line. And right now they're going to flip it over to the other side of the ball, stay on the line, and they're going to go defensive tackle here most likely. I feel like that's one of their biggest needs. I mean, you take a look at that roster, and I definitely agree with that. So defensive tackle, they'd be dumb not to right here. So definitely the guy they're looking for, there's Antonio Barnett, Jalen Murray, a couple different guys they can choose from. But a defensive tackle will definitely be the pick here.
And Murray is the pick. So the Jaguars building the lines, both sides of the ball. They go back-to-back linemen. In the first, they come back with Murray in the second, trying to build from the trenches outward. Pick number 62 is the Detroit Lions, who make the surprise pick of the running back Griffin. Not sure that worked out for those guys. So you could see them double up here. Flowers, the change of pace back, still on the board, but maybe they go wide receiver with the departure of Calvin Johnson. For more on that, we're going to go to Tom Monti, who covers the NFC North.
You know, it's hard to say the Lions won't take a wide receiver because it's just so out of character for Bomber. He always goes wide receiver early. But I do think that they want to take a safety here. They need to replace Bradley McDougald, who they were lost last season, or however you pronounce his name. But they need to replace him. They need to get a new safety in there. There's still some pretty good talent at safety on the board. But as you said, Sonny, the wide receiver, it's always so tempting. And to resist the urge to do it, I just don't know if the Lions will be able to handle that.
Yes, who could question the Lions' ability to take a wide receiver in the draft? They are quite the fans of doing so, but, you know, cooler heads could prevail in that war room and look for something on the defensive side of the ball. Picks into the commissioner, and it looks like it's going to be the free safety Lucas. So Lions fight back the urge for the wide receiver 2 rounds, no wide receiver. That's kind of strange for the Lions. Maybe they're turning over leaf. Maybe they're loaded. We'll have to wait and see. Pick number 63, the San Diego Chargers are up on the clock. So the Chargers we talked about in the last round, they faulted in the Super Bowl. They just couldn't find a way to really crack that offense. Obviously, when you had a backup quarterback playing, it's not something that you're expecting. However, pick number 31, we got the wide receiver Travis. So Travis in the first round, what are we expecting to see here in the second round, Lip?
Well, you know DK, and he loves defense, so I think they're going to go with a middle linebacker here. They were top 10 in points. They were 12th in yards overall, 12th in passing yards, but 18th in rush defense. I think they're going to look for a middle linebacker to lock up that run defense and put them back in Super Bowl position.
So, looking to get back into a Super Bowl position, Lip thinks it's going to be through the defense. Good division out there in the AFC West. They're going to play the AFC North this year, which could mean a little bit different outcome there on the win-loss totals. But nonetheless, still a tough division out there. And in order to stay on top of that tough division, they're going to need a way to get to the quarterback. So, interior pass rush maybe for the San Diego Chargers. We'll wait and see here with short time left on the clock. A lot of good things happening in San Diego. Obviously, with the comeback of quarterback Spriggs, we'll see how it goes. But the pick is in, and the commissioner's getting ready to announce. So we're going to cut away to the commissioner for the pick.
The Giants are now on the clock.
And they go with the middle linebacker Brown working on that front seven. So they do go to the defensive side of the ball, which brings us to pick number 64 and the last pick of our MBL live coverage for the evening. The Super Bowl champion New York Giants, which means we're in the NFC East. And we're going to talk here for a second with Bomber.
Well, we're talking about the Super Bowl champions. Not many holes on that offense or on that defense. I like Dallas Fitzgerald out of Tennessee, primarily because of his size and his ability to get off the block. I think he could be a huge factor and help be on the other side of JPP and really cause some havoc in the pass rush as well as against the run.
So, somebody on the upside of JPP, maybe. We're going to wait and see. The Giants, that magical run was not really dependent on the defensive side of the ball. It was definitely built from the offensive side of the ball. You saw Teddy Bridgewater, the often injured Teddy Bridgewater. So, there's a lot of different ways we could go here with the last pick of the second round. I'd like to remind everybody, this is the last pick here for MBL Live. And so make sure to check us out and subscribe on YouTube, as well as follow us on Twitter at Bomber League, and enjoy the MBL Network coverage we bring you here for the league. So looks like the pick's in, and they go with Jonathan Mason out of Florida. They apparently felt like Teddy Bridgewater is not reliable enough. Maybe a backup, maybe a starter at some point with his health, but Mason is the pick. So that will wrap up our MBL Live coverage for the night. Once again, I'd like to thank our sponsor, web3ks.com. Check them out for all your affordable graphic needs. They do a lot of work here for us on MBL Live, along with MBL Tonight and other shows on the MBL Network. For all of us here at MBL Live, Bomber, Lip, Fat, Tom, and Sonny Weaver, thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.